Hello everyone! There's no time to talk because we have to hurry off to save some animals. We have many emergency calls sent by all kinds of creatures, from a small crab to a tall giraffe. Let's get it on. Seeing this footage, we can tell that the owners of this dog are having a hard time. Not only is it stuck in the fence, it's also covered in mud, like a pig. The humans who came to help decided they couldn't save it in that condition, so first they gave it a good bath and some food. And all for what? So that a few seconds later it would make the same mistake again. Marine animals sometimes find themselves in desperate situations, as was the case, for example, with these melon-headed whales that had to be rescued in a Chinese harbor. The animals didn't have time to get out of the shallow water before low tide and were trapped there, suffering from the heat and the lack of food. It was necessary to find special stretchers for the larger whales and lots of ice to cool them down, but in the end, all 9 animals were rescued and released back into the sea. Yeah, you got it right. This guy is performing CPR on a puppy. It was the only chance to bring the poor animal back to life, and it worked. Give us a like if you're as touched as we are. You probably didn't expect to see a camel anywhere other than a sandy desert, neither did we, but it turns out there are plenty of camels in China too. This one, for example, got stuck in a drainage ditch. It was necessary to use a bulldozer to rescue the poor beast, which in the end thanked its rescuers, kind of. It's a bit strange seeing an ostrich in an icy pond. This unusual situation occurred at the Pittsburgh Zoo. The bird was exploring the area, stepped on thin ice, and ended up in the icy water. The staff tried to catch it from the shore, but in the end, it was necessary to find someone brave enough to jump into the water. The ostrich seemed to be fine. It showed off in front of the audience, jumped over the brave rescuer, and finally came back to land to the cheers of the crowd. Even the most agile and graceful animals can make mistakes. This creature was hoping to squeeze through a small hole in the wall but misjudged its size. Moreover, it was so angry at being trapped that it decided to bite anyone who came near it. Nevertheless, a group of people decided to take a chance and use a saw and zero protection to rescue the animal. But the cat became so furious that it even bit one of the rescuers through the blanket. In the end, the poor grumpy cat was rescued. Unfortunately, it didn't thank its saviors. In the following story, the cat was much smarter and asked people for help, perhaps because its cub was in trouble. Look at this beautiful blue-eyed animal. It had fallen into a crevice between the logs and didn't know what to do. The person just had to grab the kitten by the neck with 2 fingers and gently pull it out, but how can you do that when you're a cat? Have you figured out yet why these guys move so cautiously? There's a huge giraffe right in front of them. It decided to take a dip in someone else's pool and couldn't get out. Because of its height and legs, it was impossible for it to climb the slippery steps. It had to be dragged to the deck by a team of about a dozen people. The poor animal was very nervous, but people helped him recover. And look at the touching final scene. Calm down, Mom, your baby's about to be released and everything will be fine. This man knows what he's doing. That's it. Go ahead, but be more careful next time. Well, this is probably the most difficult rescue operation of today's video. Have you ever seen a moose? In this case, it's a female that weighs 300 kilos, and pulling such an animal out of an ice hole is a real challenge. But the poor creature couldn't be left in the icy water any longer, so these men had to really try hard. And then they had to give the animal a warm-up massage, for which they must have received a lot of karma. It's not just big animals that have problems, small ones often need help too, like this tiny crab, who wanted to eat the contents of a snail's egg but miscalculated its strength and got trapped inside. Good thing there was a person nearby, a couple of movements and the animal can swim freely again. Mud baths are wonderful, but not in the case of this horse. It ended up in a trap on the bank of a river in Kazakhstan. The mixture of mud, clay, and sand had the animal stuck, and the weather certainly didn't feel like summer. Can you imagine being immobilized all day in the cold mud? Fortunately, someone was visiting the place that day despite being far from the tourist areas. The rescue operation was not too difficult. The ropes were enough to save the horse. Now it can rest and take a bath. A farmer in China found this animal on his farm. The owl probably didn't plan to stay for long, but the net got in its way. It was easy to release it, but there were consequences. The bird injured a wing while trying to escape. The poor creature could not be left to fend for itself in that state, so the farmer sacrificed his time to take care of the owl and then take it to the vet. Kudos to you for your altruism, buddy. Do you think this footage is from some archaeological expedition? No, these guys are digging up a live goat. The unfortunate animal somehow fell into a pit and, in panic, buried itself even deeper, to the point that an excavator had to be brought in to save it. In the end, however, the team was rewarded with a grateful "bah." So, it was worth the effort. This animal does not appear very often in this kind of video, especially in such an unusual position. It's a pelican that somehow ended up under a pile of rocks on the US coast. However, we have said two things that are not quite right. First, these birds tend to get into trouble all the time. The team you see on your screen works exclusively on saving these animals, and the reason they get trapped is the lines and hooks left behind by careless fishermen. This poor animal got tangled up and hid under the rocks out of fear. Is it really that hard to clean the place once you're done fishing? These policemen are going to rescue a pet that didn't live up to its name. This dog, named Lucky, escaped from its owner during a walk in Prague, ran down the bank, and ended up in a beaver's burrow. Fortunately, the beavers were not at home, but the burrow was too small for the dog, so it had to call for help. It was necessary to dig a tunnel. Only 2 hours later, the dog was released and it was safe and extremely happy. Now there is no time for jokes or delays. Look at the troubled river this horse is in. It's a real death trap. There were only a few minutes to act. Fortunately, a local policeman rushed straight into the water to help the animal. And the story has a happy ending. We wonder if the horse realizes that it's standing next to a real-life superhero. This owl's legs got tangled in a string, so it couldn't walk properly. But the firefighters took care of the problem so quickly that even the bird itself was shocked. Just look how amazed it was. Did you see that? There's only one way to stop a heavy cow rushing downstream at that speed: intercept it like they do in the movies. Looks like hoofed animals like extreme water sports. This time it was a sheep that decided to take a swim. And what do you know? A policeman stopped it with his bare hands. He's a real superhero, but the stunt had consequences. He'll have to get a couple of band-aids on his elbows and knees. Listen to this squirrel begging to be set free. You might think that freeing it would be easier than helping a camel, but it's not. Tiny animals often don't realize they're being helped. In the end, the poor creature was fidgeting and wouldn't let the rescuers cut the web, then acted like Spider-Man and almost got kicked by a dog. We're sure the squirrel will remember this day for a long time. These coyotes look both sad and funny, and they resemble some defeated villains from a Disney movie. Here's a close-up of the failed soccer players. They had to go to a lot of trouble to end up trapped like this. Okay, it's time to rescue him. The net was already a bit torn, so it doesn't matter that it was destroyed, but you have to be careful with your hands. Animals try to bite too, so a little safety and we can take the coyotes home. If you don't see what this animal is being rescued from, look at its right front paw. This lynx got caught in a trap, but even in this state, the beast is very dangerous, so it was necessary to be as careful as possible. In the end, the rescuer was injured by the same trap, but look at the reaction of the released predator. It seems that the lynx realized that it was being helped the whole time. No time for explanations.
Rescue mission right now.
We have to rescue this kangaroo. The poor thing jumped over the fence and was hanging onto it in an awkward position. Luckily, a guy passing by accidentally noticed the animal. He said the kangaroo must have been hanging like that for at least a day, so it didn't even want water. Once saved, the animal only needed a massage to restore blood flow to its legs. We're not gonna try to understand how a wire snare got into a lake in a national park in Zambia, but this hippo managed to find it and get tangled up in it, so much so that it couldn't even stay on the surface. We've already seen the most difficult operation. This one is the most terrifying. It was necessary to shoot the beast with a tranquilizer dart, otherwise it would have tossed its rescuers into the nearest trees. But in the end, the hippo was brought to shore, released, and people even got time to admire its tusks. Huge, aren't they? Often, raccoons, skunks, foxes, and other similar animals stick their heads in different jars and get trapped. It's fairly easy to help them in such situations, although it's worth remembering that forest animals carry rabies, and raccoons are quite aggressive even without the virus.
Oh my goodness.
Take another look in slow motion so you know what to be prepared for. Hold on a second. Do you want to see some crazy stories from real life? Nothing dull, only action. Only adventures, chases and fights, love confessions and sudden betrayals. Don't believe us? Follow the link and see for yourselves. Our animation channel Private Diary reveals the deepest secrets. Don't forget to subscribe.